In the heart of Willow Creek, a sleepy Ohio town where the American flag flies on every porch, the Sunrise Diner was more than just a place for greasy burgers and milkshakes, it was the soul of the community. On a chilly November evening in 2025, the diner buzzed with its usual mix of farmers, truckers, and families, the air thick with the scent of coffee and fried onions. In the far corner booth, tucked under a flickering neon sign, sat Walter Thompson, an 89-year-old World War II veteran whose hands trembled as he reached for a slice of pepperoni pizza. His oxygen tank, a constant companion since his lungs gave out last year, wheezed rhythmically beside him. Across the table, his wife, Evelyn, 85, smiled softly, her eyes crinkling with a love that had weathered decades of joy and pain. Walter's faded green veteran cap, embroidered with World War II survivor, sat proudly on his head, though the threads were fraying, much like his body. His once strong frame was now hunched, his voice a whisper, but his blue eyes still sparkled with the fire of a man who'd stormed Normandy and lived to tell the tale. This meal, simple as it was Walter's last wish, a quiet night with Evelyn before hospice took him home for good. The couple spoke little, their hands intertwined, savoring each bite as if it were a memory they could hold on to forever. Around them, the diner hummed with life. Waitresses darted between tables, plates clattered, and a jukebox played a faint rendition of Sweet Caroline. Nobody noticed the Thompsons at first, just another elderly couple blending into the wood-paneled walls. But Walter's cap caught the eye of someone unexpected. Across the room, a group of 12 middle schoolers from Willow Creek Junior High crowded into two booths, their backpacks strewn across the seats. They were the school's choir, fresh from a rehearsal for the town's Veterans Day assembly, their voices still warm from singing America the Beautiful. The kids, a mix of braces and untied sneakers, were loud, laughing about TikTok trends, arguing over pizza toppings, and teasing each other about crushes. Their choir teacher, Ms. Harper, a young woman with a passion for music and history, tried to corral their energy, but her smile showed she loved their chaos. One of the kids, 13-year-old Mia Rodriguez, a girl with braided pigtails and a voice that could silence a room, was quieter than usual. Her eyes kept drifting to Walter's corner. She nudged her best friend, Liam, a lanky boy with a fidget spinner, and whispered, "Look at that guy's hat. He's a veteran, right? Like, a real hero." Liam squinted, then nodded, his usual smirk fading. Mia's grandfather had been a Vietnam vet, and she'd grown up hearing stories of courage and sacrifice. Something about Walter's hunched shoulders and the way Evelyn gently wiped sauce from his chin made Mia's chest tighten. She leaned over to the other kids, her voice low but urgent. "Guys, we should do something for him. Like, something big." The table fell quiet, a rare moment for these chatterboxes. The idea spread like wildfire. One by one, the kids stole glances at Walter, their giggles replaced by a growing sense of purpose. Ms. Harper overheard and leaned in, her eyes lighting up. "What are you thinking, Mia?" she asked. Mia hesitated, then said, "What if we sing for him? Like, the anthem, right here." The other kids exchanged looks, some nervous, some excited. Singing in a diner, without instruments, in front of strangers. But Mia's conviction was contagious. They'd practiced the national anthem for the assembly, and they knew it by heart. It felt right, like a way to say thank you to a man who'd given everything for their freedom. As the kids whispered their plan, Walter and Evelyn remained oblivious, lost in their own world. Walter was telling Evelyn about the first time they'd danced, back in 1946, to a crackling radio playing Glenn Miller. His voice was weak, but his smile was strong, and Evelyn laughed, her hand squeezing his. They didn't notice the kids sliding out of their booths, their sneakers squeaking on the checkered floor. Ms. Harper gave a nod, and the choir formed a loose semicircle near the jukebox, facing Walter's booth. The diner's noise didn't stop, but a few heads turned, curious. Mia took a deep breath, her heart pounding. She'd sung solos before, but this felt different, bigger, like the whole country was watching. She raised her hand, the signal they'd practiced, and the kids straightened up, their faces serious. Then, soft and clear, Mia's voice began. "Oh, say, can you see?" The first notes of the Star-Spangled Banner floated through the diner, fragile but pure. One by one, the other kids joined in, their voices blending into a harmony that felt like a warm embrace. The diner's chatter faded, forks paused mid-air. The jukebox seemed to dim, as if the song itself demanded silence. Walter froze, his pizza slice halfway to his mouth. Evelyn's eyes widened, her hand clutching his tighter. The kids' voices grew stronger, filling the room with a melody that carried the weight of history. By the dawn's early light, Mia's voice soared, and Liam's surprisingly deep baritone anchored the group. A few customers pulled out their phones, filming, their faces softening with awe. Walter's head turned slowly, his eyes locking onto the kids. For a moment, he looked confused, like he couldn't believe this was for him. Then his lip trembled, and a single tear traced down his weathered cheek. Evelyn gasped softly, her free hand covering her mouth. The kids kept singing, their voices unwavering, even as some of their own eyes grew misty. They weren't just singing words, they were singing for Walter, for his battles, for his sacrifices, for every soldier who'd ever fought under that flag. The anthem swelled, and the entire diner was now watching, some standing, hands over hearts. A trucker in a flannel shirt wiped his eyes. The waitress, mid-pour, set her coffee pot down, her hands shaking. Walter tried to stand, his frail body struggling against the weight of time. Evelyn helped him, her arm around his waist, and he rose, shaky but proud, his hand pressed to his chest in a salute that hadn't weakened in 70 years. The kids saw him stand, and their voices hit a new peak, raw and powerful, as they reached the land of the free. By the final note, there wasn't a dry eye in the diner. The silence that followed was heavy, sacred, like the moment after a prayer. Then, the room erupted in applause, not loud, but heartfelt, like a collective exhale of gratitude. The applause in the Sunrise Diner lingered, a warm wave that seemed to wrap around Walter and Evelyn like a blanket. The middle school choir stood frozen, their chests heaving, faces flushed with a mix of pride and disbelief at what they'd just done. Mia, still at the front, locked eyes with Walter, who was still standing, his hand over his heart, tears streaming freely now. His World War II cap tilted slightly, but his gaze was steady, piercing, like he was seeing not just the kids but every battlefield he'd survived, every friend he'd lost. Evelyn clung to his arm, her own eyes glistening, whispering, "Oh, Walter, they're singing for you." The diner's patrons, still clapping, began to murmur, some recognizing Walter from years ago when he'd been a fixture at town parades, handing out flags to kids. The trucker in the flannel shirt approached, his voice gruff but kind. "Sir, that was for you, wasn't it? Thank you for your service." Walter nodded, unable to speak, his throat tight with emotion. The kids, unsure what to do next, looked to Ms. Harper, who was wiping her own tears. She motioned for them to approach Walter's booth, and they shuffled forward, nervous but eager. Mia led the way, her braids bouncing, her usual confidence softened by the weight of the moment. "Sir," she said, her voice small but clear, "we saw your hat, and we just wanted to say thank you for everything." Walter's eyes softened, and he reached out a trembling hand. Mia took it, her own hand steady, and the other kids crowded closer, some offering shy smiles, others still teary. Liam, the fidget spinner kid, blurted, "My grandpa was in the army too. He'd love this." Walter chuckled, a weak but genuine sound, and said, "Your grandpa's a good man, son. And you kids, you don't know what this means." His voice cracked, and Evelyn squeezed his shoulder, her smile radiant despite her tears. The diner's atmosphere had shifted, like a storm had passed and left only sunlight. Customers began sharing their own stories, grandparents who'd served, uncles who'd never come home, moments of kindness they'd witnessed. One woman, a nurse in scrubs, posted a video of the anthem on X, captioning it, "This is why I love America." Kids honoring a dying vet. United States #Willow Creek. The post was already racking up likes, hundreds within minutes, with comments like, "Chills." And, "This needs to go viral." Back in the diner, the kids sat around Walter's booth, listening as he shared snippets of his life, storming the beaches of Normandy, the cold nights in foxholes, the letters from Evelyn that kept him going. The kids hung on every word, their phones forgotten, their pizzas cold. Mia asked, "Were you scared, Mr. Thompson?" Walter paused, his eyes distant, then said, "Every day, sweetheart. But fear means you're alive. And I had her to come home to." He nodded at Evelyn, who blushed like a schoolgirl. The kids laughed, and the heaviness lifted, replaced by a warmth that felt like family. Ms. Harper, standing nearby, snapped a photo of the group, Walter and Evelyn in the center, the kids crowded around, some making silly faces, others beaming. She posted it to the school's social media, writing, "Our choir made a hero's night. Proud to teach these kids. United States #Veterans Day." By morning, the post had thousands of shares, with people across the country commenting, "This is what America's about." And, "God bless that man and those kids." As the evening wound down, Walter grew tired, his breathing more labored. Evelyn whispered to the kids that it was time for them to go home, but not before Walter insisted on shaking each of their hands. "You kids," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "you're why we fought. Don't ever forget that." The kids nodded, some hugging him, others too shy but smiling through tears. Mia, bold as ever, hugged Evelyn too, whispering, "You're a hero too, Mrs. Thompson." Evelyn laughed, wiping her eyes, and said, "Oh, honey, I just loved him through it all." The choir filed out, waving as they left, their voices already buzzing with plans to sing for more veterans. The diner slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but something had changed. The air felt lighter, the conversation softer, as if everyone had been reminded of something bigger than themselves. Walter and Evelyn stayed a little longer, finishing their pizza, their hands still intertwined. Walter looked at Evelyn and said, "Didn't think I had any tears left in me." She squeezed his hand and replied, "They gave you a good send-off, didn't they?" He nodded, his eyes bright, and for the first time in months, he felt at peace. Days later, the story of the Willow Creek Choir spread like wildfire. News outlets picked up the ex-post, and the video of the kids singing hit millions of views. People shared their own veteran stories, and the hashtag Willow Creek Anthem trended for days. The kids became local celebrities, though they shrugged it off, saying they just wanted to make Mr. Thompson smile. Walter passed away a week later, at home with Evelyn by his side, his veteran cap on the bedside table. At his memorial, the choir sang again, this time, "America the Beautiful," and the whole town turned out, flags waving, tears falling. The story didn't end there, it lived on in every share, every comment, every heart it touched. It was a reminder that America's spirit isn't in grand gestures but in small acts of love, like a group of kids singing for a hero who'd given everything. And as the sun set over Willow Creek, the diner's neon sign flickered on, a quiet beacon of a moment that joined a nation together, just as it had joined those kids to Walter, and Walter to the country he loved.